Well, let's get started. Got a lot to talk about today. On the well.
Welcome to the well. On this morning, we got Sister Brianna, Brother David, Elder Charles, and a special guest, Sister Precious Williams. How you feeling on the day?
I am all right.
Give us a little something about yourself.
I don't know. Let's see. What do you want to know? I am a black woman in America.
Boom.
Clearly.
Started out fine. Yeah.
Speaking on that route and going that route on today, we're going to talk about American politics. And since you're a black woman in America,
Yes.
and one thing we talk about, we have a new president, Donald Trump, and then also in that, a lot of black people did not come out to vote and different other things. And where do you stand on these issues?
In terms of Donald Trump's presidency overall, if I had to grade him, it would be an F as of right now. And I say that only because I feel like his current temperament and his position really does not speak to all of America. It's one thing to campaign in a particular way to a particular group of people, but if you say that you are the president of the United States of America, then it needs to encompass all people. When I consider his budget, and I look at the elements of the budget that he's cutting, when I consider healthcare and the way he wants to reform healthcare, when I consider his education initiatives, it lets me know that his drive and his determination is not speaking for all of America. I would even go as far as to say most of America, and that he caters predominantly to the 1% or the group of people that he considered the swamp, that he was not going to affiliate or associate with.
Yo, can I jump in there? Yeah. I think on top of what you said about Trump, I don't think any of his intentions about being president had anything to do with the United States. Everything that these people have been doing has been geared at trying to undermine Obama because they didn't like him. They had something against black people, and we just need to say what it is. Black people have been saying what it is for a while, but there's a lot of people that are out here operating in ignorance.
Well, and I was listening to what was being said. I do not believe that everyone who voted for Donald Trump was a racist, but I do believe every racist voted for Donald Trump. You know, so not to label a blast at everyone who did that, there was a certain level of anger and frustration that was so intense, and it was real. And the anger had to be respected and acknowledged that Donald Trump, candidate Trump at that time, was able to personify and articulate it so succinctly. Well, and it might not have been the best way, you know, but people jumped on that boat because they were like, this is a guy that's saying the right things. He's going to kick the right behinds when he gets up in there. And, you know, but being in office is a completely different matter than running for office.
In the church, you're taught to have hope and give someone a chance. God gave us all sitting at this table a chance and an opportunity. When we got certain positions and got certain places and went certain things, like people were like, hey, I don't agree. She shouldn't be here. He shouldn't be there. But there was someone that said, hey, give him a chance. So where do you stand in the spiritual contents of, hey, at the end of the day, God is in control of everything?
I don't think it's God's will that Donald Trump is the president doing everything he's doing, but I think he allows things to happen. Yes. You know, Herod was there in the Bible, you know, all these kings that were really bad, but good things came out of the situation in the end. So obviously we're in the middle of it, but he may have had to allow Donald Trump for so many people to actually see there's an issue.
The Bible says that we will know a tree by the fruit that it bears. When I consider the first 100 days, the fruit on the tree doesn't look good to me. It's rotten. So from that perspective, then I make determinations of what I believe this presidency is. Now, because I'm a member of the church, it is my job to begin to call out and critique. We are not supposed to be used, nor are we supposed to be tools, but we are rather supposed to push the agenda of justice. When you consider the prophets, when you consider the things that the prophets said, from Amos to Ezekiel, they all called out the priests. They all called out people who were in governing positions, the princes, the kings, when justice, like Amos said in chapter 5, needs to roll down like a river. Okay. The reason why justice needs to roll down like a river, number one, is because it comes from the top down. Okay. Number two, because it needs to flow so that all can freely drink it. Okay. So that when I consider what's about to happen in light of the 100 days, I know exactly where we're going. Like, you don't need a roadmap after
So
that.
I'll ask this because
wait a minute.
it seems like we are kind of
'Cause I-
bashing and beating down
it
Donald and the men. I know we don't mean to do that, but my thing is more on the end of there were millions of people that actually voted for the man.
That's the
And so my thing is, where are they at? Where are the black leaders instead of us posting and talking privately, kind of like we're doing on the Well? What can we do to change things, and where are they at, and where are they at talking about
I
it?
But is it-
definitely think that if we as African Americans want to, be the leaders, we first of all we need to start by, taking the steps that are necessary to put ourselves in places of power.
Is a lot of the leaders in the past may have come from the church. There's a lot of distrust of the church. A lot of people that don't go to the church anymore, and then people that are in the church may not necessarily. If somebody's a leadership outside of it, they may be like, well, where's the church in what you're saying? So it may not be as much there.
We won't necessarily need, quote, leaders. Leaders can be shot down. Leaders can be invalidated. They can make bad decisions, but agendas cannot be shot down. As soon as you knock one aspect of it down, 3 more people stand up and take its place. My Jewish American brothers have a clear, distinct agenda. Everyone else, every other ethnic group has a clear, distinct agenda. We don't even know who the leaders of these different groups are.
Even ISIS has
Right,
an agenda.
Yeah.
but we
So-
recognize their agenda. Right now, Bishop Blake instituted the Urban Initiatives, and there are 5 different issues that deal with education, crime, family life, financial literacy, and things of that nature. Right there, you have the beginning of an issue. If the church and we continue getting busy in these areas affecting our community, then we can call in some of the culture makers, some of the more known African Americans to not get back behind a leader, but get behind an agenda.
How do we go about, as black people, educating ourselves? We can make a meme, but how do we step out and make a difference in ways that we're supposed to?
The reason why the civil rights movement was able to take place, in part, was because Martin Luther King, as a young man, in terms of everything that was happening, decided to pick up a mantle. Now, here's the thing. If the church is the body, young adults are its legs.
Amen.
I have always said that. At some level, you have to be willing to trust the young adults to lead the way. So when you consider the age of Martin at the time that he began his leadership, that made a difference because his ear was to the ground, his feet were to the ground, and he knew exactly what was happening, even when other people didn't. So in light of that, I think that we need to really turn up the knob on the way we deliver messages in the pulpit. We need to become very conscious of the way that we talk about issues of social justice, of issues of economic equity, of issues of race in this country, because that is the foundation of most of the issues that we have. We need to turn up the knob on the way we have these discussions in our church settings, because people listen in our church settings. They're inclined to move when they leave church, and some of them just need to flat out know that we are in a state of crisis. After you've had the discussion, for the sake of it not turning into a meme, I think that we also have to start getting the backing of certain leaders, whether they be athletes, actors, people who are prominent. Now, I say that because most of the stuff that Martin was able to get done, he had Harry Belafonte, he had all of these different people there funding financially, as well as being the kind of vocal face in some of the other places that he couldn't get to. Now, for me, when I start to think about the way that worked, it means it was strategic. So that's part of the problem that we're having, is that we are not being strategic in the way that we figure out how to go about this. Now, I'm not saying that we need to resurrect the way they did the civil rights movement, because of course it's 2017, things are different, times have changed. But at some point, we're gonna have to get together and figure out strategically how we are going to go about bringing our issues to the table. And that might even mean collaborating with our white brothers and sisters in rural communities like the community in Michigan that you're talking about, and saying, hey, our issues are no different than your issues.
So I know we say we can, obviously we can integrate and try to talk to have these conversations with them. If Donald Trump were to say, you know what, I'll come on the Well, and come talk with us.
I think that'd
my
be dope.
my first reaction would be like, no, I don't want to talk to him. But would that do any help? You know, like if
No,
like
I
I think,
I would
but
love
that's
to talk to
exactly
Donald Trump.
exactly. Like I would want to talk to him, but it's one of those things where it's like I think that's how our overall perception is with us. It's like in order to make progress, we have to have that conversation. But then if they extend the
If
hand,
we
you're
can
like
clearly state our agenda.
and
If
have
someone be like, "What
receptive.
y'all want?" And a lot of, if you ask a different
Yeah.
African, you're gonna get a different answer. But if we can clearly state our agenda, we need strong African American Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
We need strong African American Republicans. But we need for them to remember that they are African American and
Yeah.
build their agendas and their movements off of that agenda. Build what they do and their actions on each side of the aisle off of that. If we don't have an agenda, we don't have what it is that we need as a community and get as good as certain other groups at promoting that agenda,
think we
then
have.
we'll always be getting
Even in,
gassed,
and
you
in
know.
go
the
ahead,
process
sorry.
of building these agendas and coming together, we have to also remember that, you know, God is first and God has the final say, you know, and we can, you know, we can pass, you know, we can initiate policy and do all these referendums, but at the end of the day, God is going to have the final say. So we have to have a good balance of spirituality and action and policy.
Yeah, to that point though, I will say now when I consider the narrative of Exodus, right, and I think about you know, the people crying out to God and then God raising up Moses in order to get them toward, you know, emancipation and then them experiencing that emancipation. And he says that, you know, he is delivering them so that they can live in freedom for the sake of worshiping him, right? So the idea there is that under Pharaoh's leadership, Pharaoh was considered God, right? And so in order for you to fully experience Yahweh, you have to be freed, right, from the tyranny of like a foreign God. Now, when I consider America, for me, when I consider this, racism is the Pharaoh in America, okay? And so
If we're gonna get rid of racism, we have to start thinking, you know, we have to just eliminate color and we have to start seeing people as people.
you can't
and issues as
eliminate
issues.
color before racism is gone. Right, like that. I mean, because at that point you're walking backwards, right? So you're attempting to live in a post-racial society that is no longer racist. I mean,
But if we expect him to do things just for blacks, then aren't we just?
But I think
we're just.
there's still that
keeping
divide
it
in our
there.
community. I mean, nowadays, like you talk about with Dr. King, even with Malcolm X, all these things. Those were leaders who had so many people underneath of them. Not everybody agreed with them, but there was like one voice, a united voice, kind of all together. Right now, with all the microphones, social media, there's a lot of different leaders on Twitter. There's a lot of different leaders on social media, and we're operating in different ways. There's some people that operate under this church or this, but you know, it's just not having a unified vision of
But where
mindset.
I'm coming from is like you see the passion Brianna had and what she said, and you see the passion from Precious. There's a passion. There's two sides to us. We can't never come to a happy medium, and so we're more up to the point of saying, "Hey, this is how I feel," and then there's another side of black to say, "No, this is how I feel." When are we as black people going to come together and get it
that
together?
question is so subjective. I mean, I feel like on some level we are together, right? And the problem is how do we mobilize our togetherness?
Exactly.
I would love to live in a post-racial society. I would love to close my eyes and not be concerned about color. I don't want to be colorblind because I love the idea of color. I love learning about different cultures from, Irish to South Africa. But at the same time, what I will not do is try to be post-racial in a society that is still racist. Again, it is walking backwards and you lose your footing. The goal that I think that we need to be pursuing is figuring out how to tackle the institutions of racism to bring them down so then we can rebuild. Now, that was the goal of Reconstruction. If you really are paying attention to history, is to how do we sustainably reconstruct America? The only way to do that is to deal with these institutions, education, healthcare, or access to education, healthcare, and the job market, as well as leadership.
We have to figure out and decide what it is that we want from the community. It will be bigger than any one congregation. It will be bigger than any one candidate. It will be bigger than any one leader. Even people who are not in our particular ethnic group will have to look and say, hey, I want that too in healthcare. I want that too in education. So now you have our clearly stated agenda gaining allies and gaining ground from other groups. And a post-racial society doesn't mean we ignore any racism, but paying respect to what we've been to in our past doesn't mean that we are consumed and so focused on it that we don't do anything else. It's being able to be properly minded and balanced to say, this is where we came from, this is what we've been through, this is what we want to make it to, this is how we navigate into these days and times. And an agenda that goes beyond all of the groups is something that I believe we can move towards.
Awesome. Well, Sister Rachel, we would love to have you back because there's a lot more we could talk about on the subject,
absolutely.
and I'm pretty sure
Just invite
there's,
me.
there's
I'll
more
be
to
here.
come. Well, thank you for joining us on The Well today. Catch us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, and we'll catch you next time. Looking for more West State TV original content? Like and subscribe to make sure you never miss a video.